One of the biggest challenges we face as growers is not only being able to find seeds, but once we find a reputable seed bank, we want to be able to pick out what seeds we want to grow specifically for that run or years to come. Now, if you're like me in the beginning stages of your growing, or this is your first time ever, you might be like me at the beginning, where I only knew like 25, 30 strains existed. And then when I went onto these seed banks, I was overwhelmed with just all of the names and the flavors and the bud colors and everything. Just so overwhelming. There's so much now. It's such a big market. If you're getting into it legally, if you just got legalized like in Germany or Ohio or New York or Alaska, they all legalized recently. You're going to be looking at the grow market and wondering, how do I even narrow this down to get a seed that I know I'm going to like to grow? That's exactly the question we're going to be answering today. So buckle up, because if you can't tell yet, it's probably going to be long-winded. And also, side note, if this is your first time here and you want to learn about cannabis, if this is your first time growing, you really probably should hit that subscribe button to get notified every time I upload. We talk all things cannabis on this channel. I am CE420. Let's get right into it. So first thing, you're going to want to be looking at a reputable seed bank. Not only is this going to ensure that you have high quality seeds, you are going to be able to see descriptions of seeds that you want to buy, but you're also going to have the advantage of customer service, and also a lot of them throw in some free seeds of something that you might not have thought to grow. So it's important to go with an established, reputable seed bank, something you're maybe watching creators grow, or you're watching people on like forums post pictures of and you really like it. Go ahead and ask them where they got the seed and start making a list of seed banks. And if you truly don't know where to start, I have a couple to start with. Humboldt Seed Bank, non-triploid. Their triploids are a little sketchy, especially if you try to grow indoors. They say it's outdoor only, but I believe it's $30 a seed. I could be wrong. It's not worth it at this point in my opinion. I'm not going to say professional opinion, but in my opinion, it is not there yet. The technology, the genetics are not quite there to the point where I would spend my money on it. So stick with a non-triploid. Look at their regular seeds, look at their feminized seeds, look at their auto seeds, see what you like in those categories. True North Seed Bank, I've personally bought a lot of seeds from there. It's a seed bank, so they have a lot of breeders that you can look at. Do your homework into the individual breeders if you can, but so far, I have not noticed any scrubs they work with. They also do a lot of freebies when you do orders. Royal Queen Seeds. Now their seeds are a little bit pricey, but they do have a lot of Cannabis Cup winners. They have a lot of award-winning phenos and just really good stuff over there. I've had a couple of seeds through them, but I have not been able to grow any of them to completion due to my own incompetence. My dad has borrowed some seeds, and they look really good when they're mature. Very stout, and that's going to basically depend, but they look like high quality plants. And Canuck Seeds. I think I've gotten most of my seeds through the Canuck breeder. Very high quality stuff, super potent, very easy to grow. A lot of it is. If you go through any of those seed banks, or breeders, I don't think you should have any issues. Now, how do we narrow it down even further? How are we going to pick a genetic you actually like? Well, there's a lot of things to take into consideration. Are you growing outdoors? Are you growing indoors? Do you want a cooler environment? Do you want a super warm environment? Do you have ventilation? Do you have a carbon filter? All these things are going to play into what genotype you want. Are you going to go with a white widow? Are you going to go with a green crack? Are you going to go with a wedding cake? Are you going to go with a skunk #1? Are you going to go with a cheetah piss? It really depends on how you grow. Now, the factors you're going to be looking at on that seed bank, that actual website, when you're looking into the details, you're going to be able to see everything from yield estimation to germination rates, to THC percentage, to growth structure. You're going to want to find a growth structure. That's super important when it comes to finding genotypes. If you're going to be growing in a small environment, obviously you want something that's stout with tight internodal spacing to keep that plant where it needs to be. If you're going to grow somewhere outdoors where you're not restricted, maybe you can grow a sativa a little bit easier. And if you're growing in a small space, it's going to be important that if you grow a sativa, that you know that you're going to have a shorter veg period because of how much that plant is going to stretch, which is another thing. You're going to need to know the stretch stats if you are growing in a smaller environment. Now, if you're growing outdoors, again, it's not that big of an issue, but if you're growing indoors, you're really going to need to pay attention to that stat. THC percentage, terpene profile, all those things are going to cater to you as a specific person. And as you start reading more and more of these different seeds, you're really going to learn what you like. As you start growing, you're really going to want to know, or you're really going to learn what you're going to want in your future garden. And when I first started out, I actually thought I just wanted the most pretty garden. I wanted all the colors. I wanted all this and that. I didn't realize how much of a difference there was in the actual flavor, in the effects, in the potency, in the frostiness, in the growth structure, how they react to being fed, how they tolerate other stresses like training. I didn't understand any of that. So you're going to want to get as much information as possible, make your decision, and buy a pack of seeds. Now, if you want my personal recommendation on what type of seeds to start with, go for photoperiod, go for feminized. If you have never grown before, you're going to want photoperiod, feminized seeds. And there's a couple important reasons for that you really need to pay attention to. One, theoretically infinite veg time. That is extremely important, not only because you can create a mother and then you can take a bunch of clones, which saves on seeds and getting a whole lot of yield out of a single mother. It's really a win-win for everyone. So not only are you going to save on seeds being able to clone, which you can't clone autos. I've heard of people attempting to, but not a lot of success has been had there. So you're going to want to clone them. The reason you want them to be feminized is because you want the bud from that plant. I'm not going to recommend anyone start with regular seeds, and I'm not going to recommend anyone start with auto flowering seeds. And there's a couple important reasons for that. One, with the regular seeds, you have to buy bigger packs. For most places, you'll have to buy a 10 pack and at like $5 to $7 a seed. That can run you $50 to what would that be, $70 or so, $50 to $70. Whereas with the feminized pack, you can get you can get a 3-pack for $30. But the kicker there is that you're not guaranteed to get a female out of a regular plant, and you're not guaranteed to get a female out of a feminized plant either. However, if you don't stress that plant out, it will not hermaphrodite, and it is like a 99.9% chance. And I've only had one feminized plant that seeded out and 0 that have hermed in my personal grow cycle, and I've been growing for 4 years. So what are the odds that you're going to pick it up and then somehow herm a plant out? It's very low. And I'm not going to recommend anyone start with an auto because of a completely different reason. Autos may be feminized, however, they are on a strict schedule. And if you don't have your nutrients down, you don't have your training down, you don't understand how to treat an auto plant, you haven't done your homework on auto plants, and you haven't had experience growing, I would have a hard time recommending that someone do an auto plant. Because if you're going into flowering with no nutrient deficiencies, if you go into flower right after a topping, if you go into a flower a couple days after a heavy defoliation or heavy stressor without realizing it's going to happen, that could put a very high detriment on your plant, which I feel like is one of the things that gives auto plants their negative reputation of having low yield, is because a lot of people might not know how to grow them. But that's just speculation on my part. I have no fucking idea. I have seen a lot of high yielding autos, and I feel like that's more of an expert plant if you just want to get through a bunch of Genos or just destroy a bunch of Phenos. Because that's kind of, as Pigeons 420 would say, that's where genetics go to die, because you can't clone them. I guess you could breed them, but that's not continuing a genetic. You're not going to get the pheno that you once had, most likely. And I do go into that a little bit on a podcast episode I was on for pheno hunting, where if you have the genetic in your garden, you can recreate it, but it is going to take a lot of work. That's not like a beginner thing to do, and it's not something I expect to be able to pull off anytime soon. But I am getting into breeding projects, so maybe that's something we're going to be tackling in the future. But I just wanted to get in here, show you guys, hopefully guide you guys in the right direction to picking out the right genos your first time. Definitely pick out something that's going to work well for the way you grow. Definitely pick out something that's going to taste good and give you the effects you're looking for. And also try to find the medical benefits you're looking for in a plant. That's going to be super important. But until next time, leave a like if you like this video. Thank you very much.